The hangar deck of the USS Enterprise was a cavern of gasoline fumes, shouting men, and the rhythmic clanging of heavy wrenches. Jack "Cobra" Dawson climbed into the cockpit of his F-6F Hellcat, the seat still warm from the sun beating down on the flight deck. He adjusted his leather flight cap, pulled his goggles down, and felt the familiar, tight coil of anxiety in his chest. Today, the sky over the Philippine Sea wasn't just a battlefield. It was a vast, blue graveyard, clear. The mechanic yelled. The massive radial engine coughed, spat a cloud of blue smoke, and roared to life, shaking the entire airframe. Jack watched the signalman on the deck, a man in a yellow jersey dancing through a chaotic ballet of hand signals. With a sudden violent lurch, the catapult fired. Jack was slammed back into his seat as the Hellcat was hurled off the deck and into the shimmering heat haze of the Pacific sky. As he climbed, the massive American fleet below began to look like toys scattered on a sheet of blue glass. He checked his six, scanning the horizon for the Zeeks, the nimble Japanese Zeros that could turn a dogfight into a nightmare in seconds. Red group, bandit at 12 o'clock high. The radio crackled. Jack looked up. Diving out of the glare of the sun were a dozen silver specks. The dogfight began before he could even take a breath. The air was suddenly filled with the white ribbons of tracer fire and the dark, oily plumes of burning planes. Jack pulled the stick back hard, the G-force pulling the skin of his face downward as he spiraled upward to meet the threat. A Zero flashed across his sights. Jack squeezed the trigger. The 650 caliber machine guns in his wings roared, their vibration rattling his teeth. He saw the enemy's wings shred into splinters of metal and wood. The plane dipped, spun, and vanished into the clouds below. But the sky was hungry today. A sharp thud shook Jack's cockpit. Smoke began to curl from his engine cowling, and a spray of oil hit his windshield, obscuring his vision. His oil pressure needle was dropping fast. Unhit. Engines failing, Jack called out, his voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. Can you make it back to the Big E, Jack? His wingman asked. Jack looked at his gauges. The Enterprise was 50 miles away, a tiny speck on the horizon. His engine was sputtering, coughing out its last gasps of power. Negative. I'm going to have to ditch. See you at the club, boys. He leveled the plane, gliding silently now that the engine had finally quit. The silence was the most terrifying part. The wind whistled through the bullet holes in his canopy. He looked down at the endless expanse of the ocean. He had to hit the water just right. If he was too fast, the plane would cartwheel and break apart. If he was too slow, he would stall and dive nose first. He braced himself, pulling the nose up at the last second. The impact was like hitting a brick wall. The water smashed against the glass, and for a moment, Jack was underwater, the cockpit filling with the cold, salty Pacific. He fumbled with his harness, his lows burning. He kicked off the canopy and floated to the surface, gasping for air as his beloved Hellcat, the Blue Ghost, sank slowly into the abyss. He pulled his yellow life raft from his pack and inflated it. As he climbed inside, the sounds of the battle above began to fade. The planes were moving on, chasing the horizon. Jack sat alone in the vast, silent blue, a tiny yellow dot on a shifting sea. He reached into his pocket and found a dry cigarette he had tucked away. He didn't have a light, so he just held it in his lips, looking at the sky where he had spent so much of his life. He wasn't afraid. He knew the destroyers would come looking for him. As the sun began to set, painting the clouds in shades of purple and gold, Jack realized that the war was made of thousands of stories, like his brief moments of fire and fury, followed by the long, quiet wait for home.